You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune in to the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Hello, everybody. This is Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers on the History Channel, and I love to listen to TNCRadio.live.
TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
Welcome in TNC Radio.live. We are live on a Thursday night, May the 4th, 2023. This is Highway Fever. And now here's your host, Charlie Claiborne.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing tonight? Before we start the show, I want to give a shout out. Tonight at 8 p.m., right after my show, is a new show here on TNC Radio.live, In for the Long Haul. It's going to be hosted by Candace Summers and Lisa. They're with a group called 32 Truckers a Day. A lot of mental health, self-help, just great girls. I know Candace very well. I'm sure you guys enjoy the show. And that, again, is In for the Long Haul, 8 p.m. Thursdays here on TNC Radio. And I believe they're maiden pages tonight. So give them a listen, check them out, give them some support. Now, I am so mad. I want to run to the window. I want to throw the window up, and I want to tell the world how mad I am. Many of you have been following along on Facebook with the NIDRA post. You've seen some of the petitions that are circulating. I'm telling you, I do not believe that we are going to get transparency from the very people that claim transparency is so important. My special guest tonight, James Lamb from SBTC. I have with us Bob Murphy, the president of NADRA, and I have Jason Vinn, the vice president of NADRA. So tonight we're going to talk about the broker transparency issue. James has introduced the bill. James, you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm mad too, Charlie, and I want to suggest that you should take a deep breath with me, and we should open that window, and we should say, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's where I'm at.
That's what I was thinking. So we're working on these issues, and you want to go into the detail and explain to people why the petition is important, what the goal of that petition is, and the progress we're trying to make before we get into the stuff that's really going to make them mad.
Yeah, and let's get right to it. So what we're dealing with here is the issue of broker transparency. We're dealing with the regulation 49 CFR 371.3. People know this. We've heard about this ad nauseum over the last 3 years. And basically what we've done at this point is, after receiving a letter from FMCSA, which was dated March 16th by Robin Hutchinson, we basically read into that letter that there was good news and there was bad news. And the good news is that our petition for rulemaking from May 6th of 2020, where we asked the agency to strengthen the transparency rules so these big brokers will stop what we think is circumventing or evading regulation by putting in little waiver covenants in their contracts to force and basically coerce truckers, independent truckers, small motor carriers, coerce them into waiving their rights to transparency. And so the good news is they're going to start the rulemaking. That's what they said. But the bad news is that there's language in that letter that basically says, don't get your hopes up too high because, that nothing is guaranteed, essentially. And so what we did is we said, well, that's great, but we need to go above FMCSA at this point because we can't, number one, wait another 3 years. before they finalize this process. We're probably midway through it at this point, 3 years into the deal. And number two, it's no guarantee. And so, we need to now escalate this matter to Congress. And so about a month or so ago, 5 weeks ago, maybe, here I was on vacation. And, I said to myself one night, I said, I don't feel good that I'm on vacation because this issue is still going on. And there's a lot of guys that are struggling right now, and they can't go on vacation because they're struggling with rates. And they're about to go under. This is Truckergeddon, as I put it to you, Charlie, round 2. And this might be the final, round for a lot of these people. So I said, I got to do something. And so, after doing my vacation day, that night, I wrote what's called the Transportation Intermediaries Accountability Act. And what it does is it basically takes the issue away from FMCSA, and it puts it in the hands of Congress, assuming that it gets sponsored and that it gets passed and signed into law by the president. This would be a law that would essentially hold the large brokers and quite frankly, brokers of any size who are doing this nonsense. It would hold them accountable. And there's other aspects of it, too, that we can get into about how there's a lot of people running around calling themselves dispatchers when they are people who are arranging for transportation and they're getting paid. So they fall under the definition of broker. They're illegal brokers. And so this addresses that. It addresses new entrant status into the industry. What do we do about new guys that become brokers, right? There's two things there. One is, do we make sure that they have a ease of access in America where you're supposed to be able to follow the American dream and become an entrepreneur? $75,000 bond was not to fight fraud. And of course it was $100,000 until we got it, dropped down by lobbying. It was to fight competition. Nobody at TIA or in the big brokers could care less, nobody could care about whether truckers get paid. That's not their purview. Their interest is making sure that there's minimal competition and you have to go to the, the big 3PLs to get your loads. So, that's where we're at with that. And so, we're talking about reducing the bond for 24 months to $50,000, which is an exact adjustment for inflation from when that original or that last $10,000 bond was set back in 1979. Go onto the CPI, calculator and adjust it. It'll be $50,000. And we're saying that that's point one. But point two is we got to make sure that those new brokers know how to be responsible. And they learn how to be responsible in terms of handling carriers' money. And we've had this game going on with this thing called a bond forever. And the bond doesn't work. What works is escrow accounts. And that's what we're suggesting for that first 24 months. Lower bond combined with an escrow account. And that hopefully will make sure that, carrier money is paid. We think that those factoring companies that are out there that basically try to help underfunded brokers get started, they'll step in and they'll help manage that requirement for these folks. And we think, it's a win-win, regardless of whether you're a small trucker, that's getting abused by these large brokers, or you're a small broker trying to start up, or you're a motor carrier who needs to make sure that you get paid by your broker.
One of the biggest issues here is you make it a point to point out the evasion. The biggest problem with the current transparency proposal, what we're dealing with today, is they're evading those rules. And the next half, we'll get into that on the next half. But you went on in that to address how it would stop these large 3PLs and brokers from evading the rule.
Yeah. Yeah, and what it does is it basically specifically expressly states that this is a requirement, transparency. It's escalating the rule into a law, and it specifically says that you cannot waive this now statutory obligation of disclosure. And it does two things. Number one, it mandates a disclosure up front for the broker's client. Broker's client is the shipper. And so, like every other industry that's out there, when there's a broker involved, the broker's client always knows what the broker is going to charge that client. Real estate, stockbrokers, whether it's 4% real estate, 1% stockbroker. You guys, I think Bob brought up the other night on one of your Facebook Lives, mortgage brokers. I mean, all of these insurance brokers, everybody knows what their broker is going to charge them, except manufacturer shippers in the transportation industry. And that makes no sense. And so that's the problem that we're trying to get at. And so we address that. There's also, the trucker being able to see it after the fact. And that's the existing rule. And we're saying that needs to be, kept. And, the trucker is the vendor. And so, that is strengthened in form of you cannot waive this law.
So, and the name of your bill, right before we go to break, the name of your bill you came up with really quickly, and it suited, and I loved it. And what is it you're trying to entitle the name of this bill, James?
Well, the name of the bill, Transportation Intermediaries Accountability Act, is basically, for short, the TIA Act. And it's tongue in cheek. It's absolutely meant as tongue in cheek. And, I'm sorry, Mr. Burrows and TIA, but, you don't own the letter A, so, we have the right to name it, whatever we want to name it. And we want to put it out there that it's the TIA Act. Yeah. And so that's the whole idea, that it is about accountability, bringing accountability in terms of whether you're a large broker or whether you're a startup broker or whether you are an illegal broker that needs to stop illegally brokering, go get a broker license and bond like everybody else.
There you go. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to my special guest, James Lamb, Bob Murphy from NADR, and Jason Vinn. We'll be right back. Quick break here on TNCradio.live. This is Highway Fever, and we'll be right back.
This blog on TNCradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Health tips every trucker should follow. When you live your life on the road, it can be very easy to fall into an unhealthy lifestyle. This is the case when it comes to most truck drivers. Being on the road for weeks at a time can take a toll on one's health. The lack of exercise, sleep, and access to a balanced diet are all common health hazards for truckers. Taking care of your health is not only important for your well-being, it's also important for a successful career in the trucking industry. Here's some tips every trucker should take into consideration while traveling on the road. Eat healthy. Although it may be more convenient to eat fast food or grab something quick at a gas station, try stopping at a grocery store and picking up some fresh fruits and veggies. Some other healthy options are protein bars, dried fruits, nuts, and make sure to drink plenty of water. If your truck has an auxiliary power unit or power inverter, look into getting a portable stove, crock pot, or microwave. This will make eating healthy much easier, and it also helps save money. Be sure to be aware of your company's policies for cooking in your truck. Exercise. Finding the time to exercise can be quite a challenge when you spend 10 or more hours a day driving. Finding a little time to exercise each day can improve your physical and mental health. Walking, running, pack some running shoes and take a 30-minute walk or jog each day. It's an inexpensive option for exercising. Work out in your cabin. Setting up a workout routine to do in your cabin is a convenient way to keep yourself healthy. You don't even need workout equipment. Find time to implement these workouts in your daily routine. Push-ups, planks, sit-ups, tricep dips, stretching. Stretching can help avoid back pain. It's important for truckers to make stretching a part of their daily workout routine. Back bends, front bends, side bends, neck stretch. Sleep. Getting a good night's sleep is essential for good health. Driving can become dangerous if you're not getting an appropriate amount of sleep. Studies say that most healthy adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep each night. Follow these steps to a happier and healthier sleep lifestyle. Stick to a sleep schedule. Sleep on a comfortable mattress and pillow. Avoid alcohol and caffeine close to bedtime. Turn off all electronics before bed. Mind. Taking care of your mental health should be as important to your physical health. Truck driving can be boring. Keep your mind alert and fresh by listening to music while driving or tncradio.live. This blog on tncradio.live was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
It's Truckers Life Radio from TFC Global with your host, Ron Frazier. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Here we're helping drivers as they travel life's highway. I love that. The spiritual side, drivers face a lot out on the road. Truckers Life Radio digs in on the spiritual and moral questions that drivers face on a daily basis. You don't want to miss it. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
And welcome back in TNCRadio.live. This is Highway Fever and your host, Charlie Claiborne.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Listen, we're gonna go through a couple quick things with James and talk about the coalition that James has tried to and is successful so far. Very successful at bringing different organizations together to focus on this issue and the petition and many other issues. So James has formed this coalition, and he has agreed to be in that coalition with many groups, NADRA including them. Bob Murphy, you're joining us here. James, talk a little bit about the importance of why the coalition is so much stronger than individual groups trying to fight this battle on their own.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do this on your own, and it doesn't matter, what size you are. It's really that, this is like a war, and you can't fight a war with one, regimen, that's on one front. There's battles on multiple fronts. And so you need organization structure that has, some kind of ability to send people into FMCSA one day, send people into the Hill to a hearing like next Wednesday at the subcommittee on highway and transit. It's about, legal cease and desist letters. It's about asking for task forces. It's all different things, and you can't get legislation passed easily in this country. I hate to bring up, the old 1970s Schoolhouse Rock, I'm just a bill, that we all remember when we were kids, right? You remember that, Charlie? But, it's a lot more complicated, than that. And 90% of bills fail in committee. And, after what we've learned now, and I know that's for our next segment after the next break, oh boy, the likelihood of success, is diminishing. And so we need to strengthen even more, and we need to expand even more.
The stressful part is getting through this segment to the next segment. We're chomping at the bit. I am angry. I cannot stress enough to my listeners. I am seeing your text messages, guys. We are going to get to it. I promise you. We need to set the pace here and make sure we get the backstory. So with that, James also knows that our position is aligned with his. We have a different theory, and I'm going to let Bob talk about his theory and his biggest problem with the FMCSA and the transparency issue. So Bob, on behalf of NADRA, go ahead and speak and let people know what we did last night and why we did what we did last night.
When you're referring to last night, you're gonna have to fill me in on exactly what you meant right there, because my mind was somewhere else right there, Charlie. So when you're saying last night, what are you referring to?
Stopping at the bit for the second half. If you're angry like I am, but we filed from NADRA.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared for that question. I was going on to think of, how I'm mad also, James and Charles, they speak eloquently, but it basically comes down to, I'm a trucker. I speak trucker. So to break it down for someone who really this is all new to me, all these names and acronyms and everything. So it comes down to this for me. We have the FMCSA, and they oversee truck drivers and safeties. And we have 17,000 freight brokers, and nobody oversees them that's qualified. The FMCSA is a safety organization, and they have nobody to answer to. So we need Congress to pass laws and rules and regulators, because they're just running amok.
Well, Bob, again,
in a nutshell,
who's supervising these guys?
Nobody, absolutely nobody. They have a safety organization that's overseeing 500,000 trucking companies. That's what they oversee, and there's 17,000 brokers, and they are a safety administration. They don't do finances, so it's hard for me to even fathom how we got here. It's a $14.3 trillion a year is what the trucking industry moves up and down the highway, and why a safety organization is watching over trillions of dollars is just mind-boggling.
And so our petition basically spells out what we've requested of the Transportation Committee and of Congress that they draw a line and take away that regulation and that enforcement action from the FMCSA, because one, they're ill-equipped. Look, they couldn't provide parking for tricycles, let alone big trucks. And we want them to give us transparency on a financial matter. We're trusting the FMCSA. Okay, we're going to get to the second half, why this is going to be a really hard sell for a lot of people. We're trusting them to do all this stuff with transparency and to enforce rules. They don't have the criminal arm to be able to put sanctions, criminal and civil penalties that mean something. By their own admission, TQL made $8 million, right? $8 million. What is a $2,000 fine, James, to somebody like TQL? And I might have the number off. I think it's a lot more, actually. I'm just frustrated.
It's petty cash. That's in the petty cash drawer.
What is $10,000 to them, James, for a fine if they get caught one time? But
I mean, it's $8.7 billion. Billion. Yeah, that's what they earn a year. Okay. And as many, as much as these guys, a lot of guys are out there and they're trying to do boycotts and all that, you cannot possibly organize a boycott that is going to be effective in your Facebook group. I'm sorry. It's a feel good thing, but you can't do it. And I said, it's like, my daughter going to the beach and filling up a red Solo cup and having an impact on the beach. There's still plenty of sand and the beach is not crying when she leaves. What I think you're talking about, you guys, is jurisdiction. That's the word that you're looking for. And this has to do with whether FMCSA should retain jurisdiction over property brokers, over what we call freight brokers. And you guys are right. And you guys, figured this out, and you picked up the ball on this, and you came to me and you said, what do you think of this? And it was your idea. And we went to our board and they said, yeah, that makes sense. And there's other groups that we're talking to as late as, yesterday that are saying the same thing. Your idea is catching on, because when Larry Miner at FMCSA gets an email from any of us about freight brokers, he's got an inbox filled with emails from other trade associations about motor carrier safety regulation issues, safety zealots, big tech that wants, to usher in driverless trucks. This is the last thing on his priority list. And quite frankly, it's not Larry Miner's fault. Congress saddles FMCSA with so many things that are safety related in terms of deadlines and reports, like the June report, the deadline that's coming up for them to issue guidance on what a freight broker is, what a bona fide agent of a carrier is, and how that impacts dispatchers, whatever the heck they are. That is, what his priority is, because he can't possibly get all of this stuff. So, okay, they have a lot of money, that they're budgeted for, and their mission is safety. You guys are right. This is, and I told you this, Charlie, I'm sorry, freight brokers, but you are the bastard stepchild of FMCSA. then it is time for some other organization, some other department, some other agency, some other independent commission to come in and regulate them. I don't know. Maybe we'll call it the Interstate Commerce Commission that economically regulates freight brokers, and then FMCSA can handle safety.
And because that's where it started. That's why the language is written the way it's written. It's an antiquated, outdated system that the ICC used, and it carried over. The FMCSA was designated to do one thing, to promote safety for large trucks and commercial buses. That was their job, to improve safety and save lives on the nation's highways. How a regulation on financial transparency ended up in the FMCSA handbook baffles even right now. But again, I'm going to take a deep breath. We're going to stay on point here. So we have filed our petition. We have sent that petition to the Transportation Committee. We have sent it to members of Congress. And coming up in the next section of Highway Fever, the portion, we're going to talk about why this is going to be an uphill battle and why people shouldn't think, like James said, a red Solo cup on the beach picking up sand. You're not going to make it happen. But it's worse. There's a reason we won't be able to fight and have an expectation of victory. And what we've uncovered and what we now know is symptomatic across every government agency. So we will be right back after this break here on TNC Radio. I'm your host, Charlie Claiborne. This is Highway Fever. James Lamb, Bob Murphy, and Jason Vinn are my guests, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. Are you a control freak? Do you like to be in control? I think control has very negative connotations in our culture. But I want to use this first video of Are You a Control Freak to talk about when control is a good thing and why you should be in control. Let's begin with, there are 3 parts of your life that are important to control. What you think, what you say, and what you do. Those 3 things belong to you, and you should control them as much as possible. For instance, what you think. As St. Paul once wrote, take every thought captive. Your thoughts, your mind belongs to you, and it's important to decide where you want to focus and what you want to focus on. So the research says, let's focus on things like positivity and optimism, like gratitude, like letting go of negativity, forgiveness. The research is full of take control of your head, be mindful, be in the here and now. That's all about taking control of what you think. And what you say, you are in charge of what comes out of your mouth. And what comes out of your mouth should be something that is commensurate with what you believe. The tongue should be used as something to edify people, to promote people, never to tear them down or to destroy them. What comes out of my mouth is my control. And also what I do, that's mine to control. And let me encourage you, take control of what you consume. That is what you eat, that is what you watch, what you read, that's yours. Because whatever comes in, that's what comes out. That's what you process. So I want to encourage you also to take control of your schedule. Are you productive? Are you getting things done? Are your days meaningful? Because your schedule is yours to control. So let me begin with control, when you use it in the proper way, is a very good thing for people who are happy and productive. In the next video, I want to talk about when control is not a good thing.
Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live.
I'm Hope Savara. Join us on tncradio.live at 7 p.m. Eastern with Building Strong Minds with your host, Dr. Christopher Cortman.
I'm Ron Samuels. We put it in reverse gear so you can enjoy the history of popular music and hear the soundtrack of life Wednesdays at 8 Eastern and 7 Central, right after the train station on tncradio.live.
And welcome back in tncradio.live. We're live on a Thursday night, May the 4th, 2023. Here is your host, Charlie Claiborne.
All right, guys, we're on the second half of the show here, and we're going to get right into the sound. I have long since held that I am all done going to the FMCSA and asking them to fix anything. I don't have a lot of faith in the ability to fix this particular issue. And as you all know, James, myself, NADRA, many other people are in the process of filing petitions, drafting proposed bills, trying to garner support from our elected representatives. And just when you think you're making progress, just when you think these people are talking to you, because they're requesting information from us, they want facts and data, and we have an expert that actually provided them facts and data. Bob and I are working with an expert in logistics who presented information to this group of senators and this delegation we're working with. And James, what do we find out today? What do we find out today is happening right underneath our nose? And what is the obstacle going to be? Because I think people are going to be a little upset when they find out what we know, because it's public information, but nobody looks for it. So what's the truth about our chances, James?
Yeah, what's happening is politics. That's what's happening, and politics in the United States is not a pretty thing. Everybody knows that Washington D.C. is an absolute swamp, and there are snakes and alligators in that swamp. And so what we found out today is who TIA spends its money on in terms of its PAC, its Political Action Committee, that supports candidates for Congress when they are running for office and when they are running for re-election. And so what we did is we went back 23 years. We sifted through and we looked at the election cycles. Election cycles are every 2 years, right? So we looked at the current one, the most recent one, 2022. And then we went back to 2020. We went back all the way to 2000. And to put this in perspective, 2000 is the year that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration was born. Okay, so we went back the whole length of the agency's lifespan itself. And what we learned, and Charlie, I don't have it in front of me, and like I said, I'm not a mathematician here, and math is not my forte. Somebody added it up on Facebook, right? In your group, I think it was. We put all the numbers there, and we said, how much money have they spent during the course of this time? And what was the number? Charlie, do you remember the number from the Post? How much that was?
From 2000, it started in 2000 with $2,000, then it went to $3,000, then $7,500, then up to $30,000, then $75,000, and then it started to jump up 105, 125, 155, 175 to the current 185. But
a cycle.
Yeah.
Every cycle. So it's a ridiculous amount of money. It's well over $1 million. And ultimately it's to influence politicians so that their public policy initiatives are accepted. And TIA is pissed off right now. You know why they're pissed off? Because FMCSA actually told them they are not going to repeal the transparency regulation. They approved SBTC's request to strengthen it. They approved OIDA's request that was filed about 10 days after ours back in May of 2020. And in August, TIA stood up and they said, hey, we don't need this. Let's get rid of it. And they refused to get rid of it. So now they want to go above the agency's head. And so they're going before Congress. And in fact, they're going to testify next Wednesday in a hearing at the subcommittee for highways and transit. Part of the transportation committee. It's a subcommittee.
The problem is that money is being paid to the very people that the TIA is about to sit down in front of.
That's right. That's right. Rick Crawford. Rick Crawford is the chairman of the subcommittee, right? Republican from Arkansas. And just think about it for a minute. Remember that I was joking about it a minute ago. Remember, I'm just a bill, right? Remember how that works? The bill dies if it doesn't get out of subcommittee and then committee, and then is passed by one chamber, and it has to go through the whole process in the Senate. So now, if we get this bill introduced by one person or co-sponsors, a group of members of the House, it's going to go to Rick Crawford. And guess what the deal is with Rick Crawford in terms of the last cycle in 2022? Do you know who got the most money of all the candidates? Yeah, $7,500. Everybody else usually gets $2,500, $5,000. But Rick Crawford, in his powerful position, we're going to give you the most. And that's what we're dealing with now. And so we don't have a PAC, and we don't match that money, and we don't pay Rick Crawford, his campaign, more money. So that's what we're dealing with here, the reality of who is friends with whom. TIA is making a lot of friends, okay? And they're strategic about it because they're making sure that Mr. Wicker gets money, and Mr. Rubio in Florida gets money, and a whole bunch of different people that we would hope would be on our side. And so now the question is, will these people do the right thing anyway because of the merits of the argument, the facts, the merits of the bill, our points? Or will they be influenced?
We got to get enough people, enough drivers, enough people involved. That's what we have to do. We have to get people to understand what's happening to what our government's doing right in front of us. And drivers, I believe, are oblivious to this. We need to educate the drivers. It sounds like a made-up story that you guys just told.
It sounds like a novel that you would, like a spy thriller, and then in the end it turned out they were taking money from the bad guys,
It's all public knowledge.
Like Netflix.
Find this. It's there. It's there.
It's crazy.
So we found this, and so now we have to be careful who we approach. You would think, that you're approaching these guys. Look, I've been doing this for a long time. I used to be a fundraiser, for a presidential candidate, back in 2015. I was a, Republican fundraiser. An hour ago, I changed my designation to independent, and I wrote to a Democrat who is the Democrat on that subcommittee ranking leader, and that's Elizabeth Holmes Norton. If you told me 2 days ago I'd ever write to a Democrat, and ask them for help, oh my God, holy AB5, Batman, I mean, really. But now, because of this, I have to, because it's not about
the enemy is my friend.
Exactly.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's exactly.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. It really just happened. You explained it. It's insane, but the enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Right.
And it's right. It's mind-boggling. Like you said, you would think this is a fairy tale unless you went and researched it. It's all there. It's all public knowledge. Even the connection we made earlier between Transportation Nation and Micah's interview between Bob Voltman and then Administrator Jim Mullen, and how they parroted off of each other, how they gave the same story, how they tried to explain certain things in a certain way, and their words match word for word. You don't think a trained investigative journalist, someone who handles trucking issues, didn't pick up on the fact that there was a possibility that these two, that the TIA and the FMCSA, now there is certainly an appearance, there isn't proof, but there is an appearance that those two agencies, one organization and a government agency, were colluding together to tell their story. So yeah, it sounds like a fairy tale, but this stuff really happened.
It's crazy.
You can't
I don't even know what to say, Charlie.
Yeah. I mean, James is beating his head against the wall because every argument he makes, you should not be able to punch a hole through, right? We have the data. We have everything we need to fight this fight, but we don't have $1 million to pay off the people that are about to testify in front of the transportation committee. How is that fair?
Well, yeah. Our only hope is to rally the people and let them understand that it's not fake. This is really happening. It's going to get worse. It's our only hope. I mean, unless anybody else does. I don't have $1 million, but maybe, I don't know. I don't have that much money.
I got an idea. You want to hear my idea? Here's my idea. 50 drivers went to DC and they were outside the USDOT on Monday, and then, the FMCSA administrator came out and spoke to them very nicely. You want to really make an impact? Go to the meeting. It's open to the public. You don't need to have an advance reservation. It's next Wednesday, and it's at 10 a.m. Go to the meeting. You know who's testifying at the meeting, Charlie? The TIA. That's who's testifying. You know who gets an invitation to that committee? The TIA. We didn't get an invitation. Charlie, did you get an invitation to that meeting? I didn't. I don't even know if Todd got one over at OIDA. Because the purpose is there's an agenda, and it's to overrule FMCSA, and it's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. We want a transparency bill. They want a bill that kills 371.3 because FMCSA didn't do it. And this is what happens when they're not happy with the agency. First, they play nice to try to get what they want. And if they don't, Chris Burrows says, oh, we're really disappointed in you. And he goes to Congress. But it's done in a way that unless you're watching what's happening, when it's going to be, where it's going to be, who it's before, what the financial, follow the money, Charlie, what the financial ties are between the guy who's going to ask for something at the committee and the guy who makes a decision who is invited to the committee, and what the topic of the committee meeting is going to be. So this whole thing is a political sham, the whole thing. And so the only way that this gets addressed is if, number one, we blow the whistle and we expose it. Okay. And I wrote a letter to the staff.
Yes, you did.
Today by email. And I wrote to that person and I said, we know that your chairman got the most money last cycle from TIA of all the people that TIA gives money to. Okay. We're going to put it on the table. All right, maybe that's not political. Maybe that's not nice. Maybe that's not the way I'm supposed to behave as a trade group president. I'm sorry. I'm not following the Todd, Spencer way of dealing with Washington. Neither are you. And neither are a lot of people right now. We're going to go in and we're going to say it the way it is. We're going to say the facts and the truth. And then we're going to say, we're expecting you to do the right thing. You can take your little money, and we're not going to try to bribe you and pay you. And then if you don't do the right thing, then we're going to go to the other side of the aisle. Because our days of allegiance to one party over the other is gone. It's over. Okay? It's done. You do not get a free ride because you're a Republican. And at this point, there's nothing more than the Democrats would like than to spin this, get more truckers who typically vote as blue-collar Republicans over to their side and to vote for them under the guidance or under the auspices of they're looking out for the little guy. They're looking out for the working class driver. They're going to stand up when he's being abused, or she, by their employer. Okay. And it's not really an employer. We know that, but for all intents and purposes, they pursue a hiring standard all the time, right? They're hiring as far as they're concerned at TIA, the big brokers. Okay. Then you're the employer and you're abusing employees. Well, what does that sound like? That sounds like a Democrat issue to me. That sounds like a union issue to me. And so this is going to be handed now to the Democrats. And it's a playbook. And quite frankly, it is a playbook for sale. Meaning, we are selling votes We don't have money. Truckers cannot possibly compete with $9 billion a year TQL. Not to mention the big boy, C.H. Robinson. We can't compete with money, but you know what we can compete with? Votes. And money is intended to get you votes. That's the bottom line. So now we go to the Democrats and we say, look, we're getting lip service. We're getting run around on the other side of the aisle. Who really supports small business in America? That's what we need to know. You want to spin it as business? You want to spin it as worker? We don't really care at this point. What we want you to do is we want you to stop the corruption, the collusion, the conspiracy, the probable antitrust, price fixing, price gouging when it comes to the shipper, and restraint of trade through evasion of regulation, which is an existing statute, through your little waiver covenants in your contracts. They're illegal. Somebody has to put their foot down. We don't care who does at this point.
And listen, we have to end the show. Our time's up, guys, but we're going to finish this on Facebook.
No, we're going to take a 1-minute break and come back and wrap it up.
All right, buddy.
All right, so that's what we'll do. We'll take a 1-minute break and we'll be right back.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey.
That's perfect.
We know that life as a driver is not easy. Do you believe in the power of prayer? Whether you're moving down the highway or taking a break, you can take a moment right now to tell God about your hopes, concerns, and gratitude. Do you want someone to pray with? No problem. Just call the TFC Global 24-hour prayer line. It's 866-515-9406. That's 866-515-9406. Or if you're using the TNCRadio.live app, just press the prayer line button to be connected to a prayer warrior who will confidentially pray with you and for you. Thank you, and God bless.
It's Landline Now, followed by Steve Summers' Overnight Drive every night on TNCRadio.live starting at 11 p.m. Eastern and 10 p.m. Central.
And welcome back in. TNCRadio.live, Highway Fever. Here's Charlie Claiborne.
Guys, as you can tell, passions are running high, but they're running high because there's a game afoot in D.C., and I think James explained it well, and I want to thank James for joining us tonight. You guys want to know more about what's going on, you can go to the NADRA 2022 Facebook page. You can go to NADRA2022.com to follow along, and James is also at thetrucker.com.
Truckers.com. Truckers.com.
I always get that mixed up, James. I'm sorry, buddy. But look, there is a game afoot. It's they're selling, okay? They're buying support from the committee. They have more money than we do. They've got us outgunned. We need numbers. We need people to go sign these petitions. We need people to find their voice and participate. So, again, Bob Murphy, I'm going to give you 1 minute to close and speak quick. Go ahead. Bob?
Yes.
Go ahead, man. You get your 30 seconds. Go.
No, it's okay. You know what? I'm still reeling over James talking. He had me fired up the whole time. Everything he said, I agree. We don't have money. Votes are power. I just keep going over what he said. It's educational, actually, just sitting here, and I was trying to take that in, and I'm listening to it, and I just get madder and madder and madder. So my mind's off right now, just thinking, wow, I just got a wow thing going on right now. I'm taken back.
And Jason, 30 seconds. What's your thought?
You know, at the NADRA, one of our mottos is that we're bringing the common sense back into trucking. And this has gotten so out of control that we need to have the common sense conversation. And this needs to be revisited, reviewed, and reformed. The FMCSA cannot fathomably manage the industry and the brokers at one time, and anybody with any kind of common sense whatsoever could realize that this is an unmanageable situation. So again, we need to get together. It doesn't matter what organization you're a part of, you need to jump on board and support this, because this might be our one and only shot.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight here on The Fever. Thank you to my producer, Tom Kelly. Guys, be sure to tune in at 8 p.m. following my show, In for the Long Haul. They're going to be here every Thursday night following my show at 8 p.m. They're 32 truckers a day, two great ladies. Give them a shot. Give them a listen. And guys, if you're not mad after what you heard tonight and you don't draw a line in the sand and decide to join somebody to make your voice heard, you know, then we're gonna reap what we sow as an industry. It's time to stand up and fight back. You're listening to Highway Fever here on TNCRadio.live. We'll see you next Thursday, same time. Have a great weekend, everybody.